Delivery for Lisa Matthews. The next delivery will be divorce papers. Cheating witch. You know what they say about technology? Sometimes it tells you more than you want to know. My name is Cole Matthews, and I've spent the last 9 years thinking I knew my wife Lisa. Turns out I knew jack shit. But we'll get to that beautiful revelation in a minute. It was a Wednesday evening in October when my world got served to me on a digital platter. I was finishing up my shift operating the tower crane on the new downtown development project when my phone buzzed. Text from Lisa. Running late, honey. Traffic's absolutely awful downtown. Might be another hour. Love you. Here's the thing about being a crane operator for 15 years. You develop an eye for details. I started this job when I was 23, fresh out of technical school, learning to move tons of steel and concrete with surgical precision. When you're working 200 feet up, controlling a machine worth $500,000, you notice things that don't add up. And when your wife says she's stuck in traffic, but her location sharing shows her at Romano's Steakhouse, the most expensive restaurant in the city, that eye starts twitching. I grab my phone, zooming in on that little blue dot that was supposed to be stuck in gridlock, Romano's, where a dinner for two costs more than I make in 2 days of crane work, where Lisa's supposed client meeting was apparently happening at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday night. The notification ping from my credit card app made everything crystal clear. Transaction alert. $347.50, Romano's Steakhouse. My wife, who'd been cutting back on expenses and telling me we couldn't afford the new transmission for my truck, had just dropped nearly $400 on dinner while texting me about traffic. I shut down the crane with practiced efficiency, running through my end-of-shift checklist like I had every day for the past 6 years on this job site. Boom, retracted, hook secured, cabin locked. But my mind was racing faster than the hydraulics that powered my machine. The drive to Romano's took 12 minutes through actual traffic. 12 minutes of me rehearsing what I'd say, what I'd do, how I'd handle seeing my wife of 9 years with another man. We'd gotten married when I was 29, after I'd established myself in the crane operator union and bought the house. I thought I'd found my partner for life. By the time I pulled into the valet parking area, I had it figured out. I was going to play it cool, professional, just a husband checking on his delayed wife. That plan lasted exactly 30 seconds. Through the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, I spotted them. Lisa, my wife, laughing over wine and steaks with Brad Silverton. I knew that name from her work stories, some hotshot financial advisor who'd been helping her understand our investment options. The same Brad who drove a BMW and wore suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She was wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. The one she said was too nice for anywhere we usually go. Apparently it was just right for screwing around with pretty boy financial advisors. I walked into Romano's like I belonged there, past the hostess who looked at my work clothes like I was lost. The Carhartt jacket and steel-toed boots probably didn't match their usual clientele, but I didn't give a damn. "Excuse me, sir, do you have a reservation?" "Just checking on my wife," I said, pointing toward Lisa's table. "Lisa Matthews. She texted me about being stuck in traffic and I was worried." The hostess's face went white as fresh concrete. This was about to get interesting. I walked over to their table, my steel-toed boots clicking on the marble floor like a countdown timer. Lisa saw me first, her wine glass freezing halfway to her lips. The color drained from her face faster than hydraulic fluid from a busted line. "Cole," she whispered, "what are you doing here?" I looked at Brad, really looked at him, 6 feet of polished investment advisor in his $1,000 suit, sitting across from my wife like they were on some romantic date, which apparently they were. "Hey there, Brad," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Funny running into you here." Lisa told me she was stuck in traffic downtown. I held up my phone, showing her location dot right there at Romano's. GPS says otherwise. Brad had the balls to try to stand up, like he was going to handle this man to man. I've been operating heavy equipment since he was probably still asking Daddy for college money. This financial advisor didn't intimidate me. "Cole, look, we can explain..." "Explain what?" I pulled out my phone again, showing the credit card alert. "How my wife charged $400 for dinner while telling me we can't afford to fix my truck. Or how she's been working late 3 nights a week with her financial advisor. Lisa was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks like oil stains. Cole, please, let's talk about this at home. I sat down in the empty chair at their table, uninvited. The whole restaurant was watching now, but I didn't give a damn. No, let's talk about it right here, in front of your boyfriend. I turned to Brad. Tell me, hotshot, what kind of financial advice involves romantic dinners and hotel visits? Brad's confident mask slipped. Hotel visits? I smiled. Oh, you thought I didn't know about the Marriott last Thursday, when Lisa was supposedly at that real estate conference? I pulled up another location ping from my phone's history. Same conference that happened to be at the Marriott downtown, right around the time my credit card got charged for room service. The silence at our table was deafening. Around us, other diners pretended not to stare while hanging on every word. You know what's really funny, Brad? I continued. Lisa's been telling me we need to be more careful with money. Can't afford new tires, can't afford to fix the air conditioning, can't afford a vacation, but somehow we can afford your little romance. Brad cleared his throat, trying to regain some composure. Cole, I understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed. Brother, I'm not upset. I'm enlightened. See, I thought my wife was working late to secure our financial future. Turns out she was just securing herself a richer husband. Lisa sobbed harder. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Lisa? Because from where I sit, it looks like you've been auditioning for an upgrade while keeping me as a backup plan. I stood up, tossing a 20 on the table. Here's my contribution to dinner. Consider it a farewell gift. I looked at Brad one more time. Enjoy paying for her expensive taste, buddy. Fair warning, though. She's got champagne dreams and a taste for the finer things. Hope your portfolio's bigger than your ego. As I walked out, I heard Lisa calling after me, but I didn't turn around. The valet brought my dusty pickup truck around, while BMW boy and my cheating wife sat in that expensive restaurant, probably trying to figure out how their perfect little affair just got exposed to half the city's elite. The drive home was peaceful. For the first time in months, I wasn't wondering where Lisa really was or what she was really doing. I knew exactly what she was, a cheater who'd gotten careless with her technology. The house felt different when I walked in. Still mine, still familiar, but somehow cleaner. Like the air had been cleared of lies and deception. I sat in my recliner, the one Lisa always complained about because it didn't match her decorating schemes, and cracked open a beer. The silence was golden. My phone buzzed with texts from Lisa. Apologies, explanations, promises to talk when she got home. I turned it off and went to bed in my own house, in my own bed, for what I figured might be the last time as a married man. The next morning, I woke up alone. No surprise there. Lisa hadn't come home, probably spent the night at Brad's fancy condo trying to figure out how to spin this disaster. I called into work, first sick day I'd taken in 2 years, and then called my lawyer. Sam Patterson had been my friend since high school, back when we both thought we'd work construction forever. He'd traded his hard hat for a law degree, but he still understood guys like me. His office was in a modest building that served regular people, not corporate clients. Cole Matthews, Sam said when he picked up. Please tell me you're not calling because you finally punched out that asshole supervisor. Worse, I need a divorce lawyer. The pause on the other end told me everything. Sam had met Lisa plenty of times at barbecues and birthday parties. He had always been polite, but I could tell he thought she was a little too ambitious for a guy like me. What happened? I told him about the location tracking, about Romano's, about finding her with Brad. Sam listened without interrupting, taking notes like the good lawyer he'd become. First things first, he said when I finished. Don't do anything stupid. Don't key his car. Don't post angry stuff on Facebook. Don't give her ammunition. Second, we document everything. Those credit card charges, the location data, any texts or emails. Third, freeze the joint accounts today. Can I do that legally? When you discover infidelity and have evidence, absolutely. Just make sure you do it by the book. We'll give her notice, follow all the proper procedures. What about assets? The house? You bought it before marriage, you've been making the payments. With documented infidelity, she'll be lucky to get anything. But we need to prove she was cheating, not just having dinner. I smiled. I've got more than dinner photos coming. I spent the morning following Sam's instructions. Bank first. Froze our joint accounts, but left enough for Lisa to cover immediate expenses. I wasn't trying to destroy her financially, just protect what was mine. Then a trip to my work partner Tony Rodriguez's house to fill him in on the situation. Tony had been my crane partner for 6 years, and if I was going to war, I wanted him in my corner. We'd worked dozens of construction sites together, trusted each other with million-dollar equipment and dangerous loads. If anyone would have my back, it was Tony. Tony Rodriguez was built like the equipment we operated, solid, reliable, and tough as hell. His garage was his sanctuary, filled with motorcycle parts, welding equipment, and enough tools to build a small city. When I told him about Lisa and Brad, his reaction was immediate and volcanic. "That cheating witch," Tony said, crushing his beer can with one hand. We were sharing a beer even though it wasn't even noon. Sometimes life calls for immediate alcohol. And with that financial advisor prick, I never liked that guy. You met him? At your birthday party last year, remember? He kept talking about his investment strategies and his Tesla like we gave a damn, condescending as hell, treated us like we were too stupid to understand money. I nodded. Lisa had insisted on inviting him, said he was helping her understand our retirement options. Now I knew what kind of options she was really exploring. Tony crushed his empty can with obvious satisfaction. "What do you need me to do?" "Need you to help me move her stuff out. Legal-like, but thorough. And I need you to help me with something else." "What's that?" I grinned. "I need you to help me deliver a message." See, here's what Brad Silverton didn't know about crane operators. We're part of a tight community. We talk to each other, share information, look out for our own. When you're handling equipment that can kill someone if you make a mistake, you learn to trust your crew completely. And when someone messes with one of us, they mess with all of us. Tony knew guys who worked construction sites where Brad's wealthy clients had projects, guys who delivered materials to the office buildings where Brad conducted his high-end financial planning, guys who had connections throughout the city's working-class network. "I've got a cousin who does electrical work at that fancy office complex downtown," Tony said. "Same building where your boy Brad has his office. Luis hears all kinds of interesting conversations when he's running wire through the ceiling tiles." "What kind of conversations?" "The kind where rich people complain about their money managers. Seems Brad's been making some questionable investment choices lately. High-risk stuff that's not paying off." This was getting interesting. Within 2 days, word was spreading through the construction community about Brad Silverton's financial planning methods. How he was advising married women to hide assets from their husbands. How he was mixing business with pleasure. How his professional ethics were as questionable as his personal ones. But the real ammunition came from Danny Santos, a friend of Tony's who used to do private investigation work before he got tired of cheating spouses and insurance fraud. Now, he ran a small security consulting business, but he still had connections in the information-gathering world. "Your boy Brad's got some interesting financial problems of his own," Danny said when we met at Murphy's Sports Bar. "Ever hear of leveraged investments, margin calls? The guy's been borrowing against his clients' portfolios to fund his lifestyle." He slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were financial documents that painted a very different picture of Brad Silverton than the successful advisor image he projected. BMWs leased, condos mortgaged to the hilt, and he's behind on payments to 3 different creditors. The expensive dinners, the fancy suits, the whole image, it's all borrowed money. I studied the documents, recognizing the desperation behind Brad's polished exterior. How leveraged are we talking? Let's put it this way. If his clients found out he's been using their money as collateral for his personal loans, he'd lose his license and probably face criminal charges. The state regulatory board takes a very dim view of advisors who gamble with client funds. Perfect. Better than perfect. "There's more," Danny continued. "I did some digging into his client list. Turns out he specializes in wealth management for divorced women, helping them hide assets during divorce proceedings. Your wife isn't his first married conquest. This guy makes a habit of seducing unhappy wives and convincing them to move money around before they file for divorce." My hands tightened around my beer bottle. "Son of a bitch. Gets worse. That fancy condo he lives in, it's owned by one of his former clients, a divorced real estate developer who thinks she's investing in Brad's business. Really, she's just subsidizing his lifestyle while he looks for his next mark." I looked around Murphy's Sports Bar, taking in the honest faces of working people unwinding after long days. These were my people: electricians, plumbers, heavy equipment operators, mechanics, people who earned their money through skill and sweat, not manipulation and fraud. What's his biggest vulnerability? Danny smiled. His professional license. All it takes is one complaint to the state regulatory board about misuse of client funds, and they'll audit his entire operation. With his leverage position and the way he's been moving money around, he'd never survive a real investigation. And his clients? Mostly older women, wealthy divorcees who trust him with their life savings. If they found out he was using their portfolios as collateral for his personal debts, Danny shook his head. He'd lose everything overnight. I finished my beer, feeling that familiar excitement building in my chest. The same feeling I got when I was operating the crane, positioning a critical beam that would determine whether an entire structure succeeded or failed. One wrong move and everything comes crashing down. Danny, you're a beautiful man. Yeah, well, keep that to yourself. I got a reputation to maintain. The next morning, I put my plan into action. First stop, Brad's office in the downtown financial district. The 40-story glass tower represented everything I'd grown to hate about the financial industry. All flash and no substance, built on other people's money and dreams. I walked through the marble lobby wearing my cleanest work clothes and most confident smile. The security guard looked at me like I might be lost, but I moved with purpose toward the elevator bank. 15th floor, Silverton Financial Services. The reception area was designed to impress wealthy clients with displays of success and stability. Expensive artwork, mahogany furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. All of it leveraged, all of it borrowed, all of it fake. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect teeth and a practiced smile, looked at me with barely concealed alarm. My Carhartt jacket and work boots definitely didn't match their usual clientele. Can I help you? I'm here to see Brad Silverton, Cole Matthews. Her smile faltered. She'd probably heard about the restaurant incident through the office gossip network. Bad news travels fast in small professional circles. Do you have an appointment? Nope, but tell him I'm here about Lisa and about his client portfolio management strategies. He'll see me. 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from Brad in his corner office. Expensive furniture, impressive view, framed certificates on the walls. All of it leveraged, all of it borrowed, all of it fake. Cole, he said, standing to shake my hand like we were old friends. This is unexpected. I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I sat down and looked around his office, taking in every detail. The mahogany desk that probably cost more than most people's cars. The Crystal Award celebrating his excellence in client relations. The photographs of him with wealthy clients at charity galas and golf tournaments. Nice place, Brad. Must cost a fortune to maintain. I do well for myself. I'm sure you do. Question is, how much of it belongs to your clients? His smile vanished like hydraulic pressure from a severed line. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out one of Danny's documents, a financial analysis showing Brad's personal debt-to-income ratio. His eyes went wide as he recognized his own financial information, laid out in black and white. It means you're leveraged higher than a construction crane, buddy. And you've been using client funds as collateral for your personal loans. Brad stared at the document, his face going pale. Where did you get this? Does it matter? What matters is that the state regulatory board would find it very interesting. Along with your clients, when they find out their investment advisor has been gambling with their retirement funds to pay for romantic dinners with other men's wives. You can't prove anything, I smiled, pulling out my phone. Remember location tracking, Brad? The technology that caught Lisa lying? Well, it turns out your BMW has GPS tracking too, courtesy of the leasing company. And those late-night visits to the casino, the cash advances, the pattern of financial desperation, it all tells a story. Brad's hands were shaking now. I could see the sweat beading on his forehead, despite the office's expensive climate control system. There's something else, I continued, enjoying his discomfort. I know about Mrs. Patterson, the wealthy widow whose condo you're living in, the one who thinks she's investing in your business expansion. How do you think she'd feel knowing you're using her generosity to fund affairs with married women? His face crumpled. How could you possibly know about? Blue-collar guys talk to each other, Brad. We see things, hear things, remember things. Your building's maintenance crew, the guys who service your BMW, the restaurant staff who've watched you wine and dine married women, they're all part of the same community, and that community doesn't like guys who prey on other men's wives. I leaned forward, speaking quietly but clearly. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to break up with my wife. You're going to tell her you made a mistake, that you're not ready for a serious relationship, whatever story you want to use, and you're going to stay away from her. You can't make me do that. Actually, I can, because if you don't, I start making phone calls to the regulatory board, to your clients, to the local financial press. I'm thinking they'd be very interested in a story about a financial advisor who seduces married women while embezzling client funds. The silence stretched between us like a cable under maximum tension. I could see him calculating odds, weighing options, trying to find a way out. But there wasn't one. I had him cornered tighter than a load of steel beams in a high wind. And if I do what you're asking, then this stays between us, for now. But Brad, I stood up, looking down at him in his expensive chair. If you ever come near my wife again, if you ever contact her, if I even hear your name mentioned in connection with married women, all bets are off. I'll destroy you professionally and personally. Are we clear? He nodded miserably. 24 hours, I said, walking toward the door. After that, I start dialing. As I walked out of his office, I heard him calling after me, his voice cracking with desperation. But I didn't look back. I had one more stop to make. Lisa was waiting for me in the parking lot of her office building, just like I'd asked when I called her an hour earlier. She looked smaller somehow, fragile in a way I'd never seen before. The confident woman who'd been telling me how to manage our finances was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost and confused. Cole, thank you for calling. I was hoping we could work things out. We are working things out, Lisa, just not the way you expected. I handed her the divorce papers Sam had filed that morning. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope. What's this? Your future. No contest, no alimony, no splitting assets. You sign those papers and we're done. Clean break. Her face crumpled like cheap drywall. Cole, please, we can fix this. There's nothing to fix. It's over. But I love you. I looked at her standing there, tears streaming down her face, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just emptiness where my feelings for her used to be. Like a foundation that had been undermined until there was nothing left to support the structure above. No, you don't. You love security. You love having a backup plan while you shop for something better. But you don't love me. That's not true. Then why did you cheat? She didn't have an answer. They never do. Sign the papers, Lisa. Move on with your life. Find someone who makes you happy. What about Brad? I smiled. Ask him, but I'd do it soon if I were you. 24 hours later, my phone rang. It was Lisa, and she was crying. Cole, something's wrong with Brad. He broke up with me, said he wasn't ready for a relationship, that he needed space. I don't understand what happened. I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the financial section of the newspaper. There was a small item about increased regulatory scrutiny of local investment advisors. Life was good. I'm sorry to hear that, Lisa. You don't sound sorry. I'm not, but I'm sorry you're hurt. Did you do something? Did you threaten him? I took a sip of my coffee, savoring the moment like fine wine. I had a conversation with him, man to man. Apparently he decided you weren't worth the risk. The silence stretched out like a held breath. You bastard, she whispered. Yeah, probably. But I'm a bastard who pays his own bills and doesn't gamble with other people's money. She hung up on me. An hour later, Trina Morrison called, Lisa's best friend and biggest enabler. You son of a bitch, she said without preamble. What did you do to Brad? I introduced him to reality. Apparently he didn't like what he saw. Lisa is devastated. She really loved him. Then she should have thought about that before she cheated on her husband. You're destroying her life. No, Trina. I'm just not protecting her from the consequences of her choices anymore. There's a difference. She hung up too. Amazing how people got angry when you stopped enabling their bad behavior. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. I kept the house, my truck, and my self-respect. Lisa got her freedom and the chance to start over, which was more than she deserved, but less than she'd expected. She signed the papers without contesting them, probably on advice from her lawyer, who understood that adultery cases rarely went well for the cheating spouse. I never saw Brad again. Word around town was that he'd lost his license after a regulatory investigation, apparently triggered by multiple complaints about client fund mismanagement. His clients had pulled their money, his creditors had foreclosed on his assets, and he'd left town owing more than he could ever repay. Lisa moved back in with her parents temporarily, then found an apartment across town. I heard through mutual friends that she was dating someone new, a divorced accountant who drove a sensible Honda and lived within his means. Maybe she'd learned something from our marriage. Maybe she hadn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. 6 months later, I was having dinner at Murphy's Sports Bar when Tony slid a newspaper across the table. Thought you might find this interesting. It was an article about white-collar crime in the financial services industry. Brad Silverton was mentioned as an example of advisors who had been caught misusing client funds. The article noted that he was facing potential criminal charges and had fled the state. Poor guy, I said, not meaning it. Yeah, Tony agreed, grinning. It's tough when your chickens come home to roost. I folded the newspaper and handed it back to him. You know what the best part about all this is? What's that? I didn't have to become someone I'm not to get my revenge. I didn't have to lie or cheat or break the law. I just had to stop protecting them from the consequences of their own actions. I raised my beer, looking around at the sports bar filled with honest people living honest lives. Electricians still dirty from crawling through attics, plumbers with calloused hands, heavy equipment operators like me who understood the value of precision and responsibility. And that was enough. Tony clinked his bottle against mine. That was everything. Surrounded by real friends and genuine people, I realized something important. I hadn't just won a battle against my cheating wife and her fraudulent boyfriend. I'd won something more valuable. I'd won back myself. The technology that exposed their lies had also revealed the truth about who I really was. Not some blue-collar backup plan, not some placeholder husband, but a man who deserved honesty, loyalty, and respect. A skilled craftsman who commanded respect in his field, who had built something real with his own hands and mind. Location tracking works both ways. While it showed me where my wife really was, it also showed me exactly where I belonged, with people who valued truth over convenience, loyalty over opportunity, and authentic relationships over profitable connections. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the natural consequences of their choices. Lisa chose deception over honesty. Brad chose fraud over integrity. And both of them learned that in the real world, actions have consequences that no amount of money or manipulation can erase. As for me, I chose truth over comfortable lies. I chose self-respect over false peace. I chose my community of honest, hard-working people over the pretentious world of financial manipulation and marital deception. And that made all the difference. A year later, I was promoted to site supervisor on the biggest construction project in the city's history. My crane operation skills and leadership abilities had caught the attention of the general contractor, and I found myself managing a crew of 40 skilled tradesmen. The pay increase allowed me to finally fix my truck, upgrade my tools, and even take that vacation I'd been putting off. Lisa and Brad had both disappeared from my life completely, leaving only the valuable lesson that technology tells the truth when people won't. And sometimes, the truth is exactly what you need to build something better. The delivery was complete, the divorce was final, and I was finally free to build something real,